Mga napapanahong usapin, masusing tatalakayin at pag-uusapan, mga matalinong pagbalangkas na mga mahahalagang issue, ating pagsaluhan. Talakayin natin.
Friends, good evening. We are happy to have with us tonight the Chairman of the Environment Committee of the City Council, none other than our fellow media man, the Honorable Leo Avila. We are honored, in fact, by his presence because having been through with a very long drought of summer, which is so devastating, his presence here tonight would give us a wider picture about the effects of climate change on our environment, on our agriculture, and most specifically on the effects of the water that we consume in Davao City. Good evening, Leo.
Good evening.
Thank you.
And good evening to our viewers.
First, you know, the first time I heard of you, you are so engrossed with your turtle conservation project. How is it?
Yeah, that was in 2001 when I came back.
Yes.
And that's when I started with environmental concerns.
Yeah.
And before that, my first 3 terms were more on social services like children, elderly, women.
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 Oh, I don't blame you. And just about 2 days ago, I heard about the apprehension of some elements who were catching turtles in an island somewhere in Palawan, and I think they are going to impose severe penalty on the resort operators, although the resort operator is saying that he wants to propagate turtles in his island. But here in your case, you really have a haven for turtles, right?
Davao City, particularly being part of Davao Gulf, is a place where we have observed the presence of the turtles that are considered at risk. There is a worldwide study now on turtles. You see, the curious thing is these turtles, their way of life, how they reproduce, has been observed to be even many years ago, thousands of years ago, and it's still the same now. Parang it's like prehistoric times. The turtles were already there. However, unfortunately now their population is massively decreasing simply because of humans' intervention. So it's also the humans who should do something about it. And the only thing that we can do is really protect their areas where they lay their eggs. Nothing more. Because you cannot replicate nature's nurturing. You just protect the area because the areas where they lay their eggs are now being taken away by humans. The beach resorts and everything.
Yeah.
So
I saw this place in Punta Dumalag, which is a nature park, something, is being, well, anyway, protected. One of the projects of the Aboitiz group of companies. Is that where the conservation area is located?
In 2003, the mayor created the task force Pawikan. It's a group where he's the chair, and he appointed me to be his representative because it was discovered that that area is the nesting site of the rare and very delicate species of the turtle.
I think they call it hornbill.
Hawksbill. The hawksbill turtle.
Hawksbill.
In our laws, if you kill a hawksbill turtle, you're going to be penalized with 1 million pesos.
And we have it here.
And
we have this
and they're
hawksbill turtle.
nesting here in Punta Dumalag.
I see.
That's why we came up with a marine protected area mechanism. And we're glad that the Aboitiz really took over because it's in their area, it's in their land. So now, it's the Aboitiz now that's
Yeah.
doing the thing.
You cannot even enter the area without the permission of the security force of the Aboitiz there.
Yes.
Anyway, I understand, Councilor Avila, that you two authored the, shall I say, controversial or what, much awaited or much needed ordinance banning mining in Davao City?
In the words of Mayor Rudy Duterte, it's something like what we really needed for Davao. If we want our environment to be continually protected and to have a safe level of peace and order. Because if there is mining in the area, number one, the mayor said, there's going to be trouble. People will come in. And number two, with mining, then our agricultural areas will be affected, our trees will be cut, and so on. So, which would you prefer, mining or agriculture and tourism?
Yes.
And Davao City says we are for agriculture and tourism, and
Yes.
not mining. So we pushed for the declaring Davao City as off limits to all kinds of mining, big or small.
Oh, I see. So that in a way is the principal focus of your environment committee.
Yes, that was when just a few months ago we were able to successfully hurdle the challenge.
Talking of environment, one of the vital issues which I think your committee is going to tackle or will be tackling is the implementation strictly of the conservation of our forest resources in watershed areas.
We are now in the process of formulating the environmental code for Davao, because we already have the policy for solid waste, septage and sewerage, rainwater, watershed ordinance, the water resources ordinance, and many other environmental ordinances, marine protected area. All we needed now is to consolidate it and fill in the blank. Like what is not yet here is our forest resources management. And although we have our watershed management ordinance, but it focuses on the watershed areas. Outside the watershed areas where there are forests, that's where we need the watershed management ordinance. And we would like to include that in the environmental code for Davao.
Great. That's great. Which led us to one concern, because there are multinational which have lured some landowners, especially in the recharge areas of Tamugan, Panigan River. They've been planting Cavendish bananas right in the slopes of Tamugan River.
Yes, sad but true. Certain areas need to be really revisited. Last 2 weeks ago, I was able to meet with the barangay watershed management team,
Yes.
the WMMT in the barangay level. You see, the watershed management ordinance created the watershed management council.
Yes.
This watershed management council is going to be the group that will oversee management, protection of all the watersheds in Davao. That council will have a technical team. The watershed management, multi-partite management team, headed by the mayor, and the technical people.
Who are
And
the
watershed-
members? Who are the members of this council?
These are city enro, the city government, and some NGOs.
Okay.
And the Watershed Management Council will be backed up by the barangay.
Okay.
Those areas where there are identified conservation zones, agroforest and tillage zones, those barangays have been identified and they are part, and they're now being trained to be the barangay watershed management multi-partite monitoring team. And they will be at the forefront. In fact, we are now preparing a proposal to further improve their capacity to protect their own barangay watershed area.
I heard that one of your proposal is really to shift itong short gestation crops into agroforests. Can you elucidate on this proposal, Councilor?
Our watershed need biodiversity. When you say biodiversity, that means there is no monocrop. That's why it's being stated that no monocrop in our critical watersheds, in our agroforest non-tillage. So what does it mean? It means a variety of crops and even trees, so that you can somehow bring back the diversity that is needed. So when it's in agroforestry area, the agricultural biodiversity must be there. Hindi lang isa, kasi sometimes we are now moving towards a monocrop of cacao. A lot of people now are planting cacao, and I said there's a danger there. We might go monocrop. We've been saying we are against the monocrop of bananas or monocrop of pineapples. Now we have monocrop of cacao. So we have to be very careful, no? Because we need the diversity of crops. So, and of course, in certain areas, you will need trees. Not only fruit trees, not only agricultural, like these industrial crops, but also trees, because they have a role to play, other than with the birds and all the insects that are needed. It also gives a cover, a certain kind of cover that will enhance the productivity of your agroforest area. So these are the mix that we need in those
I was looking at some places in, say, Tamugan. There are, native varieties of cacao. But already, as you said, these are non-monocrops because cacao are being planted alongside trees.
Undercrop. They are undercrop, understory. So if you have a coconut plantation, you put cacao underneath. So it's a best combination. Cacao, coffee, even abaca, even your banana. You can plant it under those trees. You don't have to have 1 hectares of only banana. You can put it in they're doing that in Sibulan. Sibulan have their organically grown bananas.
Okay.
And they did not cut the trees. They allowed the trees to be there. And
what kind of bananas are these?
Cavendish.
Cavendish?
Cavendish.
Okay, okay.
And they're organically grown.
Very good.
Japan is their #1 market. Sibulan.
Yeah, there's in fact, the Davao City Water District are encouraging farmers in the watershed areas to already shift to organic vegetable farming, as well as engage in engage in agroforest crops.
Yes, in fact, that's in our ordinance. If you are in a recharge zone, you are not supposed to use chemical agriculture. Must be organic. Because that's recharge zone. That's where your water, kung sa Bisaya pa, magtuhop, goes to their aquifer. Recharge.
That's correct. You talk about aquifer. What's the effect of the long drought which we had on our aquifers?
Aquifers are like our tank underneath. And the volume of water that's being stored there depends on the volume of water that's being recharged.
Yes.
So we will depend on
You're
the
talking
trees.
underground
Yes.
water.
But it will depend on the surface.
Yes.
Wherein we have the trees, we have the rivers, and if we lose trees, then the water will just flow and it will not recharge.
Yes.
And if there is too much heat and you cannot, you have very little cover, then there is evaporation immediately. So that also affects the recharge to our aquifer. So that's why it is now more imperative that we have more trees in our watershed areas, because whether we like it or not, climate change is here.
That's right.
And climate change is about water. It's either you have too much water, or like very heavy precipitation, or too little water. So it's simply about water.
Davao City Councilor is blessed, because if you're going to look at the terrain in Mount Apo, there's so many water veins, rivers, rivulets that goes or flows towards Davao City. Among these is Tamugan River. And in relation to what you said about the critical condition of our aquifers, Davao City Water District is contemplating, if not, in fact, has entered into a contract already, witnessed and supervised by the mayor himself, for Davao City and Apo Agua to tap the surface water of Tamugan. How does that appeal to you?
In fact, in 2008 and 2009, we were already pushing for water district to really hurry with the tapping of the surface water.
Yes.
We cannot live long if we only rely. Davao City gets 98% of the water from the aquifer. And that's dangerous, like what you said. You have now drought, and we are increasing in our population. Our use of water is now increasing. So we need to have another source. And your aquifer takes a long time. The study, there was a study conducted by Davao City Water District that said it takes around 50 years or more for the water from the watershed to reach the aquifer. They had that study.
That's
so,
right.
if we are not going to take care of our watershed, our children and our children's children will be the one that will be affected.
Yeah.
So here, we're happy that Water District has seriously considered and are working on tapping Tamugan River, because that would mean that our wells in the first district, which is our
Your
district, will be rested. And so there will be a chance for the aquifer to now be fully recharged for the future.
And itong Tamugan, by the way, this will also benefit the second district in particular.
Yeah, because it comes from there.
Yeah. And you know, we're talking about the effect of the long drought. There's one water production well in Cabantian, where the water level deep low. Ibig sabihin nun, the aquifers is already affected by the long summer. And it can happen again if we are not going to proceed with the bulk water project of Davao.
I fully agree, because you see, if this is our land and our aquifer is underneath. Now, if we keep on discharging, removing water, consuming the water, then there will be a bigger space, and that there will, number one, land subsidence.
Yes.
The land will collapse.
That's right.
That's why in Dumo, you see, you'll never, after they cement the highway, after a year or so, it cracks again because it's floating. You stand in Dumo highway and you wait for the big trucks to pass by, and you'll notice the movement because that's water underneath. That's land subsidence. The other one, which is more dangerous, is salt water intrusion.
Correct.
If there is a space now in our aquifer, so salt water finds itself, tries to level itself, and if it cannot get from the recharge, it will get from the sea. So if there is salt water intrusion, then the water, the best water that we're drinking, will now be salty.
That's correct.
Excuse me, salty.
And talking of subsidence, yung pag-collapse ng ano yun. Diba?
Land.
The land, mag-depress.
Yeah,
Because,
the buildings will be konting earthquake, konting ano, nako, I
Yes.
could only imagine what will happen.
you see this in one town or in California where subsidence reach as deep as 10 meters from the original. And it's a farming town where they drew a lot of water for irrigation. And indeed-
California is a little curious simply because the gold rush, early gold rush in the 1500, 1600, I believe, they extracted so much land from underneath,
also.
and that contributed to the subsidence. Imagine being going now in other parts, they're now extracting oil. Again, that contributes to subsidence, and so on. As long as you keep on extracting from underneath, that will affect the surface.
I see. So anyway, what do we see here? There's a continuing activity as far as terrain analysis is concerned in all of the cities, in all parts of the city right now.
The terrain analysis will, which has been adopted by the watershed ordinance, now have been identified. The boundaries should be translated on the ground. That means we will put markers on the ground that this area is critical watershed areas. This area is agroforest and tillage. This area is prime agricultural. So that if there are any violations, it will hold in court. Because if you just have a map and they say you are violating our ordinance, okay, show us where is your proof. You have none because you did not delineate. No, according to our map. Oh, but we have to see it.
So you have three classification. Ano yun? What are
Conservation, critical conservation
the-
zone.
critical conservation area,
Conservation
which
zone.
is no tillage, no development whatsoever.
Just trees.
Just trees.
Just trees. Protect it.
Yes, and then you
Then
have
the agroforestry, non-tillage, where you can plant agricultural trees. Again, non-tillage. No harrowing.
no plowing.
No plowing.
No.
Agroforest and tillage. Fruit trees, and so on. And prime agricultural areas. I'm very interested in the prime agricultural areas simply because that's food. That's
Yes.
business. That's livelihood. And if we're able to identify where our prime agricultural area is and protect it also from reclassification. That's the danger. So we need to identify our prime agricultural area so that somebody comes here and says, can I reclassify that into a residential? No, because that's prime agricultural zone. We have to protect our food.
Can you
Even if
give Can you give us a peep of which area in Davao City has been identified, initially identified as prime agricultural area?
there are plenty. Kalinan area. Yung mga ngayon na there are rice lands and so on. These
Yeah.
are prime agricultural areas. And we need to protect that because we are increasing in population. So that means we have to feed more people.
Including industries for that matter.
And industries are coming in. They're bringing in people. And we need to have more livelihood. So we have to protect our source of food.
You know, Councilor, our city mayor, Rodrigo Duterte, has been cited by the Asian chief executive officers as historically, as the best mayor in the Philippine history. And they keep on wondering how the city mayor was able to convert Davao City from what was once known to them as the Philippine killing field to now a highly developed city and the most livable city in the world. And you speak about industries, the growth of the industries. This is something also to do with the management environment. Industries' need for water should also be addressed.
Yes.
And you're right in saying that it's about time that the Mugan River should actually be tapped now.
Overdue. Long overdue.
Long overdue.
I would say that.
Long overdue.
There was a study that said the recharge of our aquifer against the discharge or the extraction, the recharge against extraction will be equal in 2013. That's 2 years ago.
Yes.
2013 equal, which means after that, the extraction will be higher than the recharge. So we need to have another source of water, which was Tamugan, which was been identified many years ago. And I believe it's really not only about time, it should have been there many years ago, but we're happy that's now going to happen, finally.
And Davao City Water District is very thankful that you're there as chairman of the Environment Committee. You understand the effects of the impact of this climate change on our environment, and most specifically on the supply of water in Davao City.
Well, it just happens that I'm there, but I believe all the people of Davao City knows. In fact, there was a time when we were campaigning, really, when there was this the use of Tamugan for water or for energy. And I stood. So it should be for water first, not for energy, because in the ranking of needs of water, how you use water, number 1 is for human use. Number 2 is for agricultural use. Number 3 is for industrial use. Number 4 is for energy. It's only 4. Why should it go higher than for human use? And so we said number 1 use is human use, and that's Tamugan.
And on that matter, Mayor Inday Sara then was really assertive in seeing to it that the Mugan River will only be tapped for water purposes.
Primarily, yes.
Yes, primarily for water purposes. And but there is this, the ordinance would ban development. You develop a bulk water project in Damugan, you need a certain amount of development there, Councilor.
We already saw that when we were crafting the watershed ordinance. We said we will not open that until there is already when it comes.
Okay.
Because if you're going to put that there at that time, then you'll start attracting proposals for industries. I said, no, you just put it there. No more explanation. When we see that there's already a need, then we address it appropriately.
Okay, that's great. I think we have substantially covered the issue on environment. Is there anything more which you would want to convey to our TV and radio listeners on matters involving environment, Councilor?
This is the Environment Month, June.
Oh.
And we just celebrated the World Environment Day last June 5. So I think this is just timely that I'm here. And we would like to relate that the education for our awareness of the importance of the environment should not stop only in what we can get from the environment. Because the environment is us. We are one with the environment. We are not separate. That is the wrong notion that we are separate from the environment. Like we see environment as just resources. Like water, just resources, part of business, part of our, no. We are part and we are connected, interconnected.
Yeah.
Like for example, air. That's why there are trees, because trees expel oxygen as part of their waste. And our waste is carbon, which the trees need. So here is the symbiotic relationship.
It's a cycle of life.
The cycle of life. We have the water cycle. Understanding it should be even a primary purpose of human beings, because we are part of the environment. In fact, that's how it is. That's how it should be. It just happened that there are many people who claim to be better than or more intelligent than God, who designed everything, and say, oh, here's some, we can do this better. There's nothing better than what nature has already placed there.
That's
so
right.
this is the education that we need to bring, especially to our children. that we are interconnected. Kung kay Joy Ayala pa, lahat ay magkaugnay. Lahat ay magkaugnay. And
One,
that's the
one
message.
cannot exist without the other.
Without the other. If there's just one species that disappears, it affects the whole. That's why when we're protecting the turtles have a role to play. When we
right.
talk about the birds, certain birds, like the Philippine eagle. The Philippine eagle is an indicator species. We determine whether there are trees, tall trees still remaining because that's where they put their nests. So, and so on. The sharks, everything has a role to play. So this is what we need to understand, especially in our Environment Month, to the people, that we are all interconnected.
Well, thank you very much, Councilor, for educating us and
Thank you.
for taking care of our environment.
We're together. Let's do it together.
Okay. Friends, thank you and good evening.
Mga napapanahong usapin, masusing tatalakayin at pag-uusapan, mga matalinong pagmalangkas na mga mahahalagang issue, ating pagsaluhan. Talakayin natin.